Uh, yes, bats and best. You can see it, yeah? Bats, best. It's one of my favorite methods of Korczak. I really love it. It's beautiful and simple, and maybe it's beautiful because it's simple, but it was. Maybe it is, but it's rather Ira's experience. But it was extremely powerful. Um, As you probably remember, Korczak and his collaborators developed many methods to manage many areas of the social life in the orphan's home. We know something about Court of Peers. We will know something about plebiscite. And now I'd like to tell you something about bats. I love this photo. It's really amazing. Korczak as a conductor, and it reflects also many features of Korczak's system, because on the one hand, he's a conductor, so he has to see forest and tree. Yeah, he has to see orchestra and individual musician. But from the other side, also musicians, yes, have to take care of themselves. They have to be responsible for their individual music, but they are also responsible for the whole orchestra. And that's the, I think, very useful metaphor of the orphan's home and generally about Korczak's institutions. That's why I wrote in the text, which will be published in Tatiana's book, that bats and other methods reflect a crucial feature of Korczak's approach to create institutional conditions that encouraged residents to practice a balance between the enactment of self-skills, like self-confidence, self-control, or self-awareness, and co-skills, like cooperation, co-responsibility, or coexistence. And I think that this idea is really important for understanding Korczak, but also it's very modern. It's very important for us because of many reasons, cultural, social, and many others. In so many societies we can see rather, going to self or co. Which is better? I don't know. Probably the best is the balance, yes? The co-skills area was managed, among others, by the Court of Peers, and the self-skills area was managed, among others, by bats. So let's imagine the situation. That's the orphan's home. That's the main hall with more or less 15 tables for more than 100 children. Precisely, that photo is from 1940. It was made by a German photograph, Nazi photograph. So here we can see more or less 150 children. So more because it was the beginning of the Second World War. However, that's the main hall, and on the right, here we can see it, but if you will stay here, and turn right, you'll see also today a small room. It was shop. just shop, internal shop of the orphans' home. But once a week, they had a beds in that place, behind the closed doors, only for two people, one kid and one adult. And they were the actors in this methods, and they had their own roles. Role of the kid, choosing a challenge which should be desired, dependent on him or her, countable, real. I mean, you know, it's just similar to SMART method, yes, or SMART technique. It could be, for example, to start or to finish doing something wrong, something good, doesn't matter. However, this method was designed rather for children who needed support to cope with bad habits, cursing, lying, spitting, fighting, something like this. But I'm convinced that it was and it can be used also to improve skills, to improve and to achieve very ambitious goals. The second part of the role of kids, being ready to meet the challenge and start the conversation with adults. And the role of educator, only that, asking, writing down, and making an agreement. That's all, without judging, without thinking, for example, what children should do or who children should be and why, and what is convenient, what is not convenient, about culture, about anything, about, you know, education, about pedagogy and many things. Just asking, writing down, and making an agreement. And please track with me. This is the reconstruction of possible dialogue. I really love that moment. That's the adult. Hello, what do you want to bet on? Hello, I'd like to stop cursing. Could you imagine that situation in our school, maybe in your school, I don't know. In school in Poland, definitely not. Are you cursing? Are you crazy? It can be. Let's go and go back with your parents, so something like this. But here, yes, you know, asking, writing down, and so on. So the first question, or rather the second question, is how many times a week do you curse? That's why I love it, yeah. How many times? So it's something like diagnosis, yes? And the answer is about 40, for example. And yes, could you...
Suggesting for anyone sitting here to count.
Yes. But it's so powerful question because it pushes child to think about him or herself, to count it, to think, to remind, yes, to think, it was, I don't know, Józek, Mieczio, Krysia, or Christina, or Joseph, or anyone, yes, twice, maybe, you know, it's a big process, big internal process in the child. However, could you also imagine the reaction now? 40? 40, it's unacceptable. It can, you know, it's impossible. But it's not the role, yeah? 40. And I'm really, yeah. I'd like to ask you about the next question. How do you think?
Why?
Why? No?
How many times would you like to curse?
Exactly. How many times do you want to curse next week? because we have a we have a diagnosis, and we need a goal. Yes, and especially when it was the first experience of kid. I mean, the first time when he or she tried to use this method. The answer very often was, how do you think? Yes, of course. That's why I'm here. Yes, I need to be innocent. Yes, but okay, if you want to, we can do it. But experienced educator knew that it's really hard. So now it's also a question, but at the same time it's the proposal. What kind of proposal? How do you think?
What's realistic?
Yes. And for example, will you be able to go from 40 to none? If so, let's go, let's do it. I don't know, yes. I have to think about it. So, if not, maybe go to 30 for a start. You can curse, can you imagine? You can curse 30 times next week. Yes, it's really funny, but it's also challenging. You have in your books, in your translations, How to Love a Child, in the volume 2, there are some chapters from humorous pedagogy. And there is a chapter about fighting. And there is a description about the very similar method, debate with myself. Yes, how many fights do I need? For example, 5, or maybe 10, but a little one. Yes, I can see big fight and small fight and maybe medium fight. I don't know, but I can count it and I can manage it. So that was not only yes, he also wrote about it. Okay, so if the last step was the bet is on. Meet me here in a week and tell me about your progress. If you succeed, you'll get 2 pieces of candy. If you don't, you will give me 2 pieces of candy. Is that okay? 2 or 3? It's not clear. You'll have handouts with description of that method, and here we know that it's 3 pieces of candy, but it doesn't matter really. It's not acceptable now. Yes, I mean candy.
How about those candies?
Okay, I'm convinced. Yeah, thank you. But can you see the?
And I got more at the counter.
Yes, it will be enough. Yes, for all of them. That's good. I'm thinking about. Okay, I had a series of lectures at the University of Warsaw, the Faculty of Psychology, because I'm really convinced, however, I'm not a psychologist, that many Korczak's methods and approach are really similar to many approaches and even, experiments in psychology or in social psychology, which made later, yes, than Korczak. For example, here is a pure example of an issue of internal and external motivation. Yes, internal motivation can't be so big, so high. Yes, because it won't work. So that's the point. He, of course, he just knew it because of his practice, but he knew it and he used it. Next steps, or rather, next conversations. First week, 30, and it's done. second week 35, yes. Less and less, step by step, week by week. But maybe the third, and maybe 20, yes, but it's failed. Yes, it's natural. But maybe the next one, 20, yes, now succeed. And week by week, to none. To none, but this zero, this none, is also the matter of bad some weeks, yes, maybe 5, maybe 4, because he or she really needed to be sure that it's definitely done. And after, I don't know how many weeks, yes, it's very individual, but after some weeks, he or she, they were, you know, really winners. Yes, it was extremely powerful for them. It was like children's agency in practice. It was, I think that it was a real victory not only for them, I mean for children, but also for all of educators. And now, I'd like to give you an opportunity to feel it. I've prepared a little exercise for you. What do you think about it? Do you want to try? I'd like to encourage you because that's the exercise which Ira mentioned yesterday. So we need pairs. So please split into pairs, and I will tell you what next. Okay? Yes, you should sit close to each other. The next, I'm just finishing, but I'd like to tell you about two things. One is striking similarity between bets and coaching. And I think I can just prove it because it's a quotation from Coaching Skills, a handbook by Jenny Rogers. She's a guru of coaching in UK. And please note, the 6 principles. The client is resourceful. Yeah, that was like in bets. The coach's role is to develop the client's resourcefulness. Exactly. Coaching addresses the whole person. The whole person in that context means not only you as a child, but you as a human being. Because if you're only a child, it means that you should be someone or should do something, because that's the children's role in our society. And in this method, you're not only, also, but not only a child, you're a human being, the whole person. The client sets the agenda, exactly. The coach and the client are equals, and that's true because, as you probably remember, that was the basic, among others, of the Court of Peers. Court of Peers, we know story, and it's described by Korczak in How to Love a Child in the Orphan's Home, about the beginning of the Court of Peers, because children, at the beginning, they refused to use this method. It was unacceptable for them. And Korczak, it was also amazing. And Korczak tried to not to stop it, but to understand why. And he made a break, and he rethought about it, and he established, among others, that also adults can be sued by children. So, and that's the story from the book. So here, the coach and the client are equals, like in Korczak's bets. And coaching is about change and action, and that's true. However, in the Orphan's Home, the coaching or betting was something about more deeper, not only about change and action, but about emotions, about self-awareness, about self-confidentiality, and many other things. So yeah, I think that's the idea. The similarity is really waiting for, you know, for deeper understanding and for describing. So maybe you want to do it one day. And the last sentence from the beautiful text of a very interesting man, Zalman Wasserczuk. Zalman Wasserczuk. The bats reflects vitality and the will of the fight of a small child wrestling with oneself. In the bats, the main goal is self-improvement, which is a principal foundation of the human soul. Zalman Wasserczuk was an educator in Bursa. I've mentioned about it in this teachers seminar, yeah. And he wrote a series of texts in Yiddish, and he published it in 1927. And I know that Jerry is trying to maybe not by himself, but he's trying to translate it into English, and it's a priceless source, because we know about Orphan's Home from the Korczak's book. It was written in it was published in 1920, and 7 years later we have the source like this. However, yeah, and I think that's really powerful method, really modern method, and even if you haven't an opportunity to use it, to have something like this in your mind is, I'm really convinced is really important. And that's all. Thank you very much.